Good morning. Good morning and welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Greater Naples on this winter solstice eve. It is great to have you with us this morning. It's great to be with you this morning on this beautiful Naples day. As always, we're grateful for all the people that are here with us. We have a few or more people this morning. Daniel Goodsit still is in the AV room. He's been there forever. John Forsyth is with us today as well. And we welcome back to our services Tom May, who's the assistant principal cellist for the Naples Philharmonic, and Alexander Carlson, a much sought-after soloist and accompanist here in Naples and beyond. It's great to have them with us this morning, and we're grateful to Robin Petty for sponsoring our music today. And it's good to have with us Janet Hoffman, our worship associate, who I now pass the baton.
Good morning, and welcome again to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Greater Naples. My name is Janet Hoffman, and I am your worship associate today. While you all are invited to use the chat, we'd like to especially encourage those of you who have joined our community since the pandemic to feel free to say hello on this live chat. While we are so thankful that you are here, we would love to get to know you and would love for you to get to know us. We also hope that you will feel free to email our administrator at office@uunaples.org so that we can include you in our regular emails, which relate all the wonderful things that are going on here at UUCGN. Either way, you are very welcome here. You'll find that this is a place where we are all encouraged to grow spiritually in fellowship with others through worship and online opportunities that offer education, reflection, and discussion. We try to do all of this in a spirit of love and acceptance, reaching out with our hearts, offering mutual support at these times of separation. Please do take a peek at the email notices that are being sent out each week that offer us links to these learning and fellowship opportunities. There's also our virtual coffee hour Facebook page that's available to you for you to connect with 24/7. Tomorrow evening, December 21st at 7 p.m., the Mindful Monday Forum presents an important panel discussion exploring the 4 different aspects of racism. Speakers David Hines, Teresa Shaw, Brian Tennell, and Deborah Britton will speak of their works and experiences here in Collier County. Thursday night, we hope everyone will tune in to our Christmas Eve candlelight service with the Stu Shelton Trio and our guest soprano, Nadia Marshall. As this is a much different year, we hope that you will appreciate the slightly different format with a different perspective on the story. That's this Thursday at 7 p.m. on our YouTube and on our Facebook page. Look for details and more upcoming events in this morning's Sunday news, or you can go to our website at www.uunaples.org. Now, let's relax and center our hearts and minds as Tom and Alexandra play this morning's Prelude.
Welcome into the light of this community, its singing and its silence, its laughter and its tears. Welcome into its work and its play, its struggles and its vision. Welcome into this place of creation and recreation, this community of imperfect souls striving to be something more than self. Welcome into the light of this community. We light our chalice each week, not because we must, but because we can. We light this chalice understanding that together our individual lights can burn brighter in community. We light this chalice, symbol of our free faith, so that it may continue to be a beacon of hope, of justice, and of love. Please join me in the chalice lighting response on your screen. In the light of truth, the warmth of community, and the fire of commitment, we gather this day. May the flame we now kindle be to us a symbol of the unity we seek. And let's join in singing our opening hymn, Come Sing a Song with Me. Come sing a song with me, come sing a song with me, come sing a song with me, that I might know your mind. And I'll bring you hope when hope is hard to find. And I'll bring a song of love and a rose in the winter time. Come dream a dream with me, come dream a dream with me, come dream a dream with me, that I might know your mind. And I'll bring you hope when hope is hard to find. And I'll bring a song of love and a rose in the winter time. Come walk in rain with me, come walk in rain with me, come walk in rain with me, that I might know your mind. And I'll bring you hope when hope is hard to find. And I'll bring a song of love and a rose in the winter time. To see, to simply look and see, is an ethical act, an intentional choice to see with eyes wide open. Looking, seeing can be a spiritual practice, a practice that can lead to some inevitable consequences as we begin to look more and more clearly in the light of truth. At one point in my dad's life, he had some back issues. And he, being sort of a mechanical engineer type, a scientist, somehow found these glasses that he could lie flat in his back, and it was like a prism in glasses form, and he could hold the book on his chest and read it while his eyes were going up towards the ceiling, and I was intrigued by that. And so he told me about them and refracting the light. He's a scientist, he was a teacher. So I got lots of lessons like that. So I learned about prisms. And when you think about prisms, they are incredible things. They take in what we think of as pure white light, and they separate it. Because pure white light is not white light, it is the combination of all light in the spectrum. Red, blue, indigo, violet, green. So when we see something, When we look at something, sometimes we reflect back exactly what we see. If we're unable to resist sort of putting a shade over that light and filtering it, we reflect back into the world everything we see, all the good and the bad and the ugly. And that in itself is a spiritual practice. Sharing what we see honestly and openly. We think about the news that we see on television and all the violent acts that are there. We think about a random act of kindness that we see when we're out and about. Both are real. Both we see. Both can be reflected back into our community. And then there's a prism and refraction. And in the words of the Reverend Victoria Safford, then there's refraction. Taking into yourself as a prism takes in light. Its truths of what you see and hear, and then transforming it somehow, changing its direction, acting on it, rendering it somehow anew. That again is holy work. The spring day received comes out again as gratitude. A sorrow, yours or someone else's, fully realized and not denied, not covered up, comes out as compassion. To see clearly is an act of will and conscience. It can make you very vulnerable. It is persistent, holy work. World transforming work. Let's join together in singing our centering hymn, There Is More Love Somewhere. There is more love somewhere. There is more love somewhere. I'm gonna keep on till I find it. There is more love somewhere. There is more peace somewhere. There is more peace somewhere. I'm gonna keep on till I find it. There is more peace somewhere. There is more hope somewhere. There is more hope somewhere. I'm gonna keep on till I find it. There is more hope somewhere. Once again, it's good to be with you in this time of celebration and sorrow. As we approach the end of another year that many of us would like to definitely leave behind, we still take time to honor those who have worked hard in behalf of others, who have stood on the front lines in hospitals or grocery stores, who have done what's needed to be done, who have worked hard in research labs, who have worked hard in manufacturing facilities to keep things going. We express our greatest thanks to all who have made our lives as easy as they can be in this strange time. We honor all those families who have lost loved ones to the pandemic and those who are still struggling with the illness. Daniel Goodsid, our technician in the AV room, shares that his mother, Linda Goodsid, has been in the hospital in Chicago with a non-COVID related issue, and she faces a procedure on Tuesday. We would love to have our good wishes and prayers sending them north during this early week, and hopes that she will have a speedy recovery. And this week, for the second week in a row, I have to announce the passing of one of our congregants, one of our dear members, Sal Corallo, who passed away this past Monday. Sal was a wonderfully rich and vital person with great integrity and honesty, curious mind, a warm heart. He was a great soul, and we will miss him here at UUCGN. We send along our love to his wife Marjorie, who was so close and so devoted, and know that she struggles mightily now. But hopefully she too knows that we hold her close in our hearts. I'll ask Janet to light a candle for both Sal and for Steve Conway, who passed away the week before, and who I forgot to light a candle last week. So 2 candles of sorrow this week. One for Sal Corallo and one for Steve Conway. Join me now in the spirit of meditation and prayer. We awaken each day to a choice of how to balance our hopes and our fears. We can choose out of fear to build fortresses, believing perhaps too quickly that the evil without is greater than the evil within. We can overcome by the magnitude and numbing repetitiveness of events unfolding in the media and choose despair. We can succumb to the liberal tendency of sophisticated resignation and cynical chic, separating ourselves from the world with a shrug of futility. Spirit of love, let us awaken instead to the possibility of love, all saving, all redeeming love, body, mind, and spirit. Let us awaken to the saving gift of forgiveness, where we can, in a single breath, free ourselves and free others. Let us awaken to savor the world of abundance and possibility, a world that awaits just beyond the self-imposed limits of our imagination. Let us awaken to the blessings of acceptance, expressed in a simple saving mantra: want what we have, do what we can, be who we truly are. Let's share a few seconds of silence together.
Thank you, Tom and Alexandra. That was beautiful. Howard Zinn was an American historian, playwright, author, and philosopher. To be hopeful in bad times is not fanciful romantics. It is based on the fact that human history is a history not only of cruelty, but also of compassion, sacrifice, courage, and kindness. What we choose to emphasize in this complex history will determine our lives. If we see only the worst, it destroys our capacity to do something. If we remember those times and places, and there are so many, where people have behaved magnificently, this gives us the energy to act, and at least the possibility of sending this spinning top of a world in a different direction. If we do act, in however small a way, we don't have to wait for a grand utopian future. The future is an infinite succession of presents. And to live now as we think human beings should live, in defiance of all that is bad around us, is itself a marvelous victory. UUCGN has given me a greater sense of hope from the compassion and caring felt here, the open-mindedness that I have experienced, and the wisdom that people have shared. I value the diversity of beliefs and the diversity of religious backgrounds that we have here. The environment has allowed me to grow and learn in many directions. I hope that you will join me in contributing to this congregation. I give not only to help pay the bills, but also to show my gratitude for all that I have received here. You can contribute by going to the website at www.uunaples.org and clicking Donate, or you can mail a check to 6340 Napa Woods Way. The Buddha's Last Instruction by Mary Oliver. Make of yourself a light, said the Buddha before he died. I think of this every morning as the East tears off its many clouds of darkness to send up the first signal, a white fan streaked with pink and violet, even green. An old man, he lay down between two sala trees, and he might have said anything, knowing it was his final hour. The light burns upward. It thickens and settles over the fields. Around him, the villagers gathered and stretched forward to listen. Even before the sun itself hangs, disattached in the blue air, I am touched everywhere by its ocean of yellow waves. No doubt, he thought of everything that had happened to him in his difficult life. And then I feel the sun itself as it blazes over the hills like a million flowers on fire. Clearly, I'm not needed. Yet I feel myself turning into something inexplicable value. Slowly, beneath the branches, he raised his head. He looked into the faces of the frightened crowd. Make of yourself a light.
I'm not a great fan of holiday displays of lights. As my wife Ann will tell you when we're driving around, I will always say I prefer the more quiet display, something tasteful, simple. But I have to say that this year, especially, I have found all the lights, all the wonderful displays comforting. Sort of the idea of pushing back the darkness that we all feel. And this, of course, is something that human beings have been doing for all of time, creating light amidst the darkness with fires and lights and colors. And we do it mentally, too. Tonight and tomorrow night are the longest nights of the year. And yet, we call this the season of light. Hope reigns eternal. The customs, lores, and symbols associated with Christmas and New Year's and other winter holidays can mostly be linked to solstice celebrations that probably started 12,000 years ago in the agricultural revolution. Structures that mark solstice and the equinox have been found all around the globe dating back more than 5,000 years. In the 3rd century A.D., the Emperor Aurelian established December 25th as the birthday of the invincible sun. And only shortly thereafter, in 273 A.D., the Christian church settled on this day to represent the birth of Jesus. And January 6th, the date celebrated as Epiphany in Christendom, was linked to the visit of the Magi, was a date for the solstice from ancient Egypt. When my boys were growing up in our UU congregation in Reading, Massachusetts, they went through a program called Holidays and Holy Days. It provided instructions and lessons about all the various celebrations from all different faiths that happen throughout the year. And some of the holidays, especially around this time of year, were often acted out either within the congregation or soon after a service. There was Santa Lucia's Day, St. Lucia's Day, which if you were on the Wonderful Wednesdays week, Martha Cornell spoke about, celebrated highly in Sweden. It's the story of a young woman who carried much needed provisions to persecuted Christians who were living in the catacombs in Rome, and she would wear around her head a halo of candles so that she could see her way while still carrying the wonderful goods that she was bringing. And there were many celebrations of the Christmas celebration of light that the students learned about and shared. They created Advent wreaths from France and built Philippine paroles, large, colorful paper star lanterns made with sticks and tissue paper. They played out the Mexican tradition of Los Posados, children carrying lanterns and going from house to house in the cities of Mexico, replicating Mary and Joseph's search in Bethlehem. The noisiest was the Chinese New Year, which would be highlighted by a great paper and stick dragon that would wind its way through a coffee hour with sparklers and drums banging. Great fun. There are also some non-solstice celebrations of light that were part of that curriculum. Diwali, for example, one of the most important observances in India, was originally a Hindu festival, symbolizing the triumph of light over darkness, the story of Lord Rama's return to his kingdom after defeating Ravana. Today, most people in India and many people around the world enjoy this 5-day celebration. It's only one of many celebrations that honor the creation myths or foundation stories that do separate light from darkness, day from night, earth from sky, and celebrate the light. Today, with our own celebrations originating out of the solstice, it's not so much the dark of winter that we are trying to push back, but the darkness of what's going on in the world around us. We have suffered through 3/4 of a year of a terrible pandemic that has taken so many lives. We've struggled with unrest in our nation over racial justice, political divides. It has been a very difficult year for all of us as a whole, and of course many of us individually, struggling with our own isolation. Hanukkah, which is one celebration of light not derived from the solstice, but from the date of a Maccabean victory over the Seleucid Greeks, a victory that freed Jerusalem from the Greek control and allowed the Jewish people access back into the temple. It's one celebration that has survived many persecutions, serving over 2,000 years as a symbol of solidarity and hope for the Jewish people. Many of the best Hanukkah stories come out of difficult times of struggle. The story of Rabbi Hugo Gryn is one worth repeating. Hugo was born in the city of Berehovo, Czechoslovakia, in the Carpathian Mountains. And while his childhood was, in his own words, idyllic, the specter of Nazi Germany continued to loom larger over that region. In the winter of 1944, when Hugo was 13, all the Jews in the city were confined to their particular sector. And then in August later that year, the Jews were all rounded up and put on trains headed toward the concentration camps in Poland. Upon arrival there, as we all know, men and women were separated and their goods and their clothing taken away from them. Hugo was advised to say he was 19 years old and good with his hands, with woodworking. He and his father were put to work. His grandfather and his 10-year-old brother were sent to the gas chambers. It was a time of unspeakable horror. Oppression, hardship, the prisoners lived through so much, a sense of darkness and doom, of death just looming around the next corner. Many tried to hold on as much as they could to Jewish observances. And one evening in midwinter, one of the inmates reminded everyone that it was the first night of Hanukkah. And Hugo's father, mindful of this, had created a little menorah out of scrap pieces of metal. And he had somehow wrangled some margarine from a guard and had used some cloth strings from his prisoner's uniform to create wicks so that they could light the menorah. This was an act of defiance, and one that could be punishable by who knows what. And young Hugo, always more practical than not, less worried about the risk, but more worried about that wasted margarine. Wouldn't it be better to spread that margarine on a piece of bread and share it for the calories? But his father reminded Hugo gently, Hugo, both you and I know that a person can live for a long time without food, but no one can live for any length without hope. These candles represent our hope. Never forget that, Hugo. For as long as humankind has expressed itself in words, hope and light have been intertwined. Sight is our predominant sense, so it comes as no surprise that our language is rich with metaphorical references to light and darkness. And it's not only true of religious language, but of our secular world. The words in the light of are just as applicable to wisdom and to reason as they are to God or Scripture. We say often for our chalice lighting, in the light of truth. We describe someone as brilliant, or we talk about shedding new light on a subject. There are many lights available to us in the world, and we, as free thinkers, have access to them all. Some we choose, some we reject. And then there's the light of truth-telling that sometimes allows us to see ourselves and others more clearly, the good and the bad, recognizing when we have acted well or when we might have been complicit in the systems of wrong that oppress others. As Roger Grugel talked about a few weeks ago from this pulpit, in the light of truth, we need a way to forgive ourselves in order to go forward. We need to find a way to forgive each other for those times we have cast more of a shadow than provided the guiding light. There is a festival of light that has a more individual focus that perhaps answers this problem and which is not centered on the solstice. On the evening of the full moon of the 12th month of the traditional Thai calendar, lunar calendar, the people of Thailand celebrate Loi Krathong. Loi means to float, and a krathong is a lotus-shaped vessel made traditionally of banana bark, which usually contains a candle, and these krathongs are floated out into a river or stream. The history behind this festival is long and complex. The Thais celebrate for many reasons. The holiday falls at the end of the rice harvest, so the people take the time to thank the water goddess for another year's worth of her abundant supply, as well as an apology for anything that they may have done to the waters to harm it. And some believe that this is a time to float away all the anger and grudges that they've been holding, often including a fingernail or a lock of hair as a way of letting go of that side of themselves that they aren't particularly proud of, to start anew, to let go of those negative feelings. The festival was adapted centuries ago by the Buddhists of Thailand to honor the Buddha. The candle venerates the Buddha with light, while floating the krathon symbolizes the letting go of all of one's attachments, the greed, the hatred, the anger. It's a celebration because of that appeals to me. For while it's sometimes hard to find hope in the larger picture of the world, hope can be more often found in our own forgiveness and in the small things that are within our ability to accept and change and forgive. I've told the story about an experience from my chaplaincy training that took place in a hospital setting. I was out on the floor early in my time in the hospital, and for the first time was on the oncology ward. And there I met two women. One was an 80-year-old patient, a gregarious woman in her 80s, who, when I asked about her faith practice, she said, and very proudly, that she was an old New England Congregationalist. Her companion was a woman slightly younger than myself at the time, maybe in her late 50s, of Vietnamese descent. And what was remarkable is that I couldn't help notice over that visit and a few other visits in which I came across them, that the younger woman was remarkable in her attentiveness and her love for the patient. It turned out that she was the woman's daughter-in-law. She was always there, always smiling, always ready to give up her chair near the bed. And when a meal came, she would take it and make it presentable. And having learned early that she couldn't have a lit candle in the hospital, she brought a battery-operated candle that provided a steady, calming light while her mother-in-law ate her meals. But it wasn't that candle that really provided the light in the room. It was the daughter-in-law, whose compassion and presence provided all the light the room needed. I saw them a few times before, I guess, the treatments were done, and then never again. But I still remember them, still remember the lesson of the daughter-in-law. If there is a meaning for us in this world, it is to see clearly both the big picture and the minute details. To see, as Victoria Safford expressed in today's early reading, the beauty where there is beauty and the violence where there is violence. To know that we are a part of a great and unfolding creation, so that what we do, each and every one of us, matters. What we see and how we reflect it back into the world is critical. If we struggle to be open and just and compassionate with each other here in this small community, what chance have we in the wider world? But if we can model here what we wish the world to be, then we can indeed make of ourselves a light and together shine even more brightly. With words that echo Victoria Safford's, Hugo Gryn closed his last book with these words: "Time is short and the task is urgent. Evil is good. Evil is real. So is good. There is a choice. And we are not so much chosen as choosers. Life is holy, all life, mine and yours and that of those who came before us and the life of those who come after us. So let us choose goodness and truth that we find in all we see and reflect that back out into the world. And may we have cause to celebrate the coming light." I hope you all have a wonderful holiday week. I hope that you will join us on Thursday evening at 7 for our Christmas Eve celebration. Promises to be wonderful with the Stu Shelton Trio and Nadia Marshall and Peter Fankovic, who will be back joining us for Thursday night. So please join us then. Until then, go out into the world in peace, have courage, hold on to what is good, return to no person evil for evil, strengthen the faint-hearted, support the weak, help the suffering, honor all beings, and in doing so, make of yourself a light. Have a wonderful day.